In this video, I'm going to help you understand how much income you will need during your retirement. And the method that we're going to use to determine this is something called the wage replacement ratio. In this video, I'm going to talk about what is the wage replacement ratio, what will decrease it, and what will increase it. The wage replacement ratio, starting off, is gross income after retirement divided by gross income before retirement. And this will come out as a percentage. And usually this percentage for most people is between 70 and 80%. But 70 to 80% of what? Well, it's 70 to 80% of their gross income, okay? So let's use the example of Jack and Jill who make $100,000 every single year, okay? And if they have a wage replacement ratio of 80%, that means that they'll need to anticipate needing $80,000 every single year for living comfortably during their retirement. Now, what I want to do, since we understand a little bit more about what the wage replacement ratio is now go through a couple of reasons as to why the wage replacement ratio will decrease. Let's start at 100%, a wage replacement ratio of 100%, and from here, this will be a good way to show you what will decrease and increase the ratio. So the first thing that will decrease the ratio is the fact that Jack and Jill in our example no longer have to save for retirement because they are now in retirement. And couples like Jack and Jill usually save between 8 and 12% of their income every single year. And if they make $100,000 and they contribute $10,000 a year towards their retirement, then $10,000 is 10% of $100,000. So now they will have to decrease their wage replacement ratio by 10%. No saving. Next, what is going to decrease their wage replacement ratio is the fact that Jack and Jill no longer have to pay Social Security tax, or FICA tax is another way to say it. And if Jack and Jill are employees that work for an employer, they will have to pay 7.65% of their gross income towards Social Security tax, okay? And just a quick side note, if you are self-employed, you'll have to pay 15.3% of your gross income towards Social Security tax every single year. You have to pay the employer side and the employee side for this. And for Jack and Jill, they are not self-employed, so they don't have to worry about that. Next, let's talk about the fact that Jack and Jill no longer have to work during their retirement. And if they don't have to work, they don't have to travel to work, and they're going to save on gas expenses. And they'll also save on clothing expenses for work. They're not going to have to buy those expensive suits or what have you. And so I'm going to write for this point just no work, and say that Jack and Jill spend around $3,000 every year related to having to work, travel to work, and get takeout from work and all that good stuff. So next, another thing that Jack and Jill won't have to pay for anymore is their mortgage. Hopefully by this point, they have paid off their mortgage completely. And let's say they have a mortgage of $2,000 every single month, which equals to $24,000 a year, which means that we can now subtract another 24% from their wage replacement ratio, because $24,000 is 24% of $100,000. Right, no housing expense. Now, the fifth thing that can decrease their wage replacement ratio is the fact that they no longer have to pay for childcare. Hopefully at this point, if they had children, they no longer have to pay for sustaining those children and helping them with their education and things of that nature. So this is something that varies between couple to couple. For this example, let's say that Jack and Jill are paying $10,000 a year in childcare expenses, okay, which is 10% of their income. And now if you subtract all this from 100%, Jack and Jill will have a wage replacement ratio of 45.35%. Okay, now we're going to look at things that will increase the wage replacement ratio. So we can get rid of all that. Now, things that will increase the wage replacement ratio is medical expenses. So when you get older, then medical expenses are going to cost a lot more. And for a couple like Jack and Jill, I'm going to say that they have to spend around an additional $15,000 every single year for medical expenses during their retirement. So we have medical, say plus 15. Another thing that can increase during retirement, and this is pretty straightforward, is lifestyle aspirations. So maybe you want to go golfing, take some vacations, all that fun stuff. That's going to cost money. And that is something that you need to account for when you are planning for your retirement. I'll just say lifestyle. And we can add an additional 5% to this to say that Jack and Jill want to spend another $5,000 every year towards their new lifestyle in retirement. And last but not least, we have long-term care. And not everybody is going to need long-term care, but if it happens, it can be a big drain on retirement income. What people usually do is pay for long-term care insurance, which they usually start paying between the ages of 50 and 60, and policies can be between $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Let's say for Jack and Jill, it costs them $5,000 a year, okay? Actually, let's say it costs them $3,000. Now, if we add all this back to this 45.35%, we get 68.35%. And this right here is the exact wage replacement ratio for Jack and Jill. Now, it definitely doesn't hurt to add a couple percentage points to this to just play it safe. And you never know what's going to happen in the future. So 72% is a pretty safe bet for Jack and Jill. Now, again, it's very subjective, but you can see how many different things can subtract from the wage replacement ratio and many things can add back to it to get us in between 70 and 80% of your income during the working years that will be needed for your retirement years. Look, I appreciate you watching this video. I hope it was helpful. My next video, I want to talk about how you can determine the amount of money you will need in total for a comfortable retirement. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice day.